Hello, welcome to the Airco Academy. Today we'll be talking about the Trackabout app, specifically the warehouse yard functions. So we're going to cover the Add New button, I guess you will say, on the app. Locate, find inventory, change barcode, update test date, cylinder lookup, change service, and medical industrial receive, which are basically the same thing except medical requires a lot number. So if you have your Trackabout app open, I would have it handy. If not, go ahead and open it up. And we'll go over here. Okay. So many of you, this is what your app looks like when you open it up. You can kind of scroll through it. Deliveries would be for the drivers right here. But we're going to focus mainly on the screen and the second screen. So first, we're going to add new, which is what we do if there's a cylinder that comes in. We purchase a cylinder, or we find, or we get, we're renting a cylinder, let's say from Western. We have to add those new assets. So let's go ahead and hit add. And I do not do the barcode first. I always do it at the end. That's just my personal preference. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the serial number scan. I'm not going to scan a serial number, but I want you to see the top of the cylinder that I have. It's an acetylene 3, might be a 4. I only have half of it on my desk. So you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm just scanning it right now. So as you can see, there's all different letters, numbers, symbols. So the most important question is, what is the serial number? And the serial number is the most important item on that cylinder. Some people would say the safety, the retest date. You can make that argument. But from an ownership, because barcodes come off, they get scraped off, they just get painted over, that serial number is vital, because that's that one piece of information that should be available at all times. So looking at that video, it was kind of hard to determine what was the serial number. Now I've done thousands of these, so I know basically what the serial number is. And if you're giving, basically adding an asset and you're not sure, please ask somebody. Once you look at our cylinder population, you'll realize that a lot of cylinders begin with the number, like say 18, because it was manufactured in 2018. Or a lot of Welders Warehouse 690, it ends in Y. We have a lot of cylinders that begin with NK. You'll see a lot of cylinders that the older ones especially will be say T dash and a 4 or 5 digit letter or numbers. So you'll get used to what a serial number is. A couple of rules of thumb: it's close to the DOT number, if not below it. It can be to the side. And when in doubt, like I said, just ask somebody. So here, I know the serial number is 013 468 ED. All right, and we're going to add, so if that's an acetylene, let's just call it a 4. Is that a rental or is that an exchange? Anybody recall seeing raised lettering or anything that denoted ownership? I'm going to say no. So we're going to make it an AC4. And I'm going to show you why this is right and wrong here in a little bit. We're going to do that. Here you may be inclined, let's say you're looking at a high pressure and it has a Matheson or a Praxair, and you're inclined to make the ownership that. Well, we're renting those bottles most likely. So that's still a rental. So think of ownership as kind of like if it's rental or exchange. 90% of the bottles, if not more, will be in Airco Gas's ownership. A-bar obviously is A-bar. So if you default just to Airco Gas's number 1 at the list, you'll be okay. Cylinder information for the manufacturer test date, you do not have to put both dates. The only date that you gotta have is the most recent one. So if it was manufactured in 1974 and it has a test date of 2020, just put in the last test date. So this one here, the cylinder actually is 0503, but we're going to change that, and we're going to say the last test date was 03. So basically almost 10 years ago. And just hit next. All right, serial number, product category, ownership, all looks great. So let's scan the barcode. And usually I put the barcode on first rather than at the end. So it now has a barcode on it. 6314. Now, this is the second time I'm making this video because the barcode last time showed 211 and it read this as an E. Please be sure that the barcode is what it is, or you'll save something into the database that doesn't exist. I can clean that up, but once again, just double check your work because the cameras are not 100% foolproof. So let's go ahead and save it. And one record pushed successfully, so it should be in the database. Let's double check that. Cylinder lookup. Okay, so that's our barcode, that's a serial number. But hey, what's this? That's not what I called it. It's supposed to be a -EI-4AC. Well, it's an empty cylinder. So the system recognizes, okay, you registered an asset, but because you didn't industrial receive it or go through the fill process, it turned it into an empty category or an empty item for us. And we'll make this a full item here shortly. But once again, don't think that you did something wrong. This is how the system operates. So that being said, let's go back, let's cancel out of here, and let's go to the locate function. Locate function is what we use for our cylinder audit at the end of each month. And what we'll do is, let's say we're at Dallas, next. And what you do is we count fulls currently. We will be counting empties when the plant comes up and running here in the next, say, 6 months. But we'll hit full. And here, there's a picture of my keyboard. I'll get out of that. What you'll do is you'll just go around the yard and you're just going to zap all the full cylinders. So having your yard segregated is very important, obviously. But you're just going to just zap, zap, zap. You don't have to count all the one under one scanning session, I guess. You can count, say, 50, hit save, go through back into the app and locate full, do another 50. I would recommend to kind of break it up because the Samsungs, especially kind of after about 300 to 400, tend to lock up. So even on my iPhone, I just hedge my bet every 200 cylinders-ish. I just save it, open up a new session, and then start scanning some more cylinders. And I recommend for you to do the same. So we'll just back out all this and cancel. Okay. So now you're at home on a Saturday, customer calls and says, hey, do you have X in stock? Well, you could call the branch manager, maybe you saw it on the dock, but let's say that we just did inventory. Perfect example. So you're going to say, how many acetylene 4s do I have in Waxahachie? ACs, AI AC 4s. So click down here to find the inventory button. All right, so product codes, you want to look for what again? -AI AC 4s. And it pulls up those two. All right, and what location? Like I said, for Waxahachie, click on Waxahachie and click next. And as of right now, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 6. Trackabout doesn't give you a roll-up number, unfortunately. I believe they're working on it. But at least you can see, okay, I've got 6 cylinders at the branch. What we could also do is let's look at helium 50T. And we're going to look at Dallas. And you click next, and there you go. And what's interesting, if you kind of look at the serial numbers here, 18K, as I mentioned earlier, FL, kind of gives you an idea of what to look for when you're doing that add new. The ENK, NK 18. So there's quite a few of these as well. And what's interesting is that the days at branch, we do have a dead stock report that prints out to let us know how stale inventory has become with cylinders. So there you go. And like I said, we do cylinder inventories at the end of the month. We true that up. So especially at the beginning of the month, that inventory should be fairly accurate. Okay, let's move on to change barcode. Very simple. So many times we get cylinders that have barcodes that are scraped off, been rolling around the back of a pickup. They just get damaged. It's hard to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another barcode you can't see on top of my old barcode of the original one. All right. Okay, so the serial number on that acetylene that we added, 468 ED. Because once again, that serial number, this is why another reason it's vital to make sure that serial number is right. Because if you do something like this, let's say you leave off that, couldn't find it. If you add a D, couldn't find that either. Well, let me try again. 013 468 ED. My apologies. 013 468 ED. There you go. Like I said, if it's not spot on, as you can tell, it doesn't have any fuzzy logic, as some people may call it, where it says, oh, well, you have this one that's 468 ED. The desktop does. The handheld doesn't, or the app doesn't. So it says, hey, is this the guy that you want to change? Yes, it is. You click on it, and click Next. And what we're going to do is we're going to scan the barcode right there. I know it's kind of fast. I'll do it again. So right there, as you can kind of see, I had already basically put it on top of the old one, but you can see 112, and now it's going to become the 103, and you just click Save. It's done, and you can kind of double check that here. 103. It's already been updated. Everything looks the same. If you remember that test date, this is the same cylinder. Just now has a different barcode. So update test date. Let's pretend that the cylinder has gone out to hydro and now has come back. And we're going to update the test date. So click on update test date. Click on it. And what you'll do is then you'll scan the barcode. Now it looks like our guy. And everything looks fine. Click Next. Oh, it's now 2021. We'll say February 2021. And save it. And what we can do is we can go here to cylinder lookup. Look up that cylinder. And sure enough, our test date has been updated. So the next one on the list is cylinder lookup, but I think everybody understands that. But what we'll do is here, we'll do that here. Yes, that is a red Solo Cup. And what's most important that we really haven't touched on is this guy right here. So click on that. The arrow doesn't have to be somewhere on the line. This gives you a history of what that cylinder has done, where it's been, when it got picked up. So here we can see that we received it from the vendor. We delivered it to the training account. Somebody did an audit. Deliver, picked up. Basically from, so you got to see it, from, so that got returned back to us. And we've been doing some stuff today on it, updating the test date and whatnot. Very powerful. to understand hey, you sent me something last week. What was it? Okay, what was the barcode? Or you're out there zapping it. Or a customer says, hey, you delivered this last week, this liquid, and it's out already. And you go out there and you zap it. It's been sitting there for 3 weeks instead. Very, very useful tool. So next, chain service. I debated whether to cover this one or not because the chain service function is very useful, but you can make a lot of mistakes, or the system will make mistakes if you input the wrong information. So you're asking, what is chain service? So let's say that it's possible that you could have, take for example, helium, a helium 50, and you want to downgrade it to balloon grade. I've done that before. Make sure you're paid well for the balloon grade helium, obviously. And what you would do is you would go ahead and type in what you want the cylinder to become. So we won't use helium. We're going to take this acetylene and we're going to pretend to make him an oxygen. Yes, I know that's not feasible, but that's what we're going to do. And we'll make him an oxygen K. So here, all you do is scan the barcode. And you can kind of see that, hey, it's an empty EI4AC. Do you really want to do this? And the system's going to let you. It's not going to stop you. There's no logic that says this can't happen. And now I've saved it. Now I've made an acetylene cylinder an oxygen. That's something you really want to try to avoid. However, what's good is if you've made a mistake, if you received in something as, let's say, an argon C25T and it should have been a C10T, you can use this. But if you're using a chain service on a full cylinder, you have to first make it empty, change the service, then make it full. So it's kind of cumbersome. So I would really kind of not recommend. What I recommend, if you have that mistake where you receive something as, let's say that C10 should have been C25, go ahead and receive it under the industrial vendor receive. And let's say we'll do that right now. So you got industrial vendor receive, and we're going to go back and let's say it's EIAC4. We're going to correct our mistake, shall we? All right. And this guy, you can see that was an oxygen. No, we weren't paying attention. Craig was not paying attention when he was receiving cylinders. I'm going to correct this mistake. All right. Been saved. So the industrial vendor receive function is whenever we get gas or magnet gas or Western, we have to go out there and scan all those cylinders. Now, if you have a cylinder palette that, let's say, it's all C25Ts, AIs, great. You can select that part number and scan them. If you have a mixed palette of M's, S's, T's, and there's oxygen, there's nitrogen, there's helium, whoever's doing that receiving has to stop at each one. When the fill process takes place here in, say, 6 months, that all goes away. So it's very cumbersome right now, but the fill process will alleviate that step. So let's look at that cylinder that we just received. And you'll notice two things. Well, first, it's the right part number, the product code, item, whatever you want to call it. But next, it's full. And it wasn't full. But when you do that vendor receive action, Trackabout knows that, oh, when you do that, I need to take the status from empty to full. That's a logic that's built behind the scenes. So what's left is medical. And like I said earlier, the only difference between medical and industrial is you have to have a lot number. So we'll do AMOXK. And this pops up. And anywhere you see a red star, you've got to have some information. Now, just like on the PO field in P21, you could put a dot here. Please don't do that. Please put in the correct lot number. They're fairly legible. It's not, I won't say it's not rocket science. But once again, on those, especially if you aren't sure, you need to go speak with the branch manager or somebody else to make sure that the lot number is in correctly into Trackabout. And as always, if you have any questions on this module or any others, please feel free to call me or email me. Thank you.